I would venture to say that most towns or cities have places where there have been ghost sightings or paranormal activity. So it's no wonder that in Mansfield, Ohio, there's one historic place that thousands of people every year seek out to have these encounters. Architectural historian Jeff Darby visits the Mansfield Reformatory to see for himself.
Downtown Mansfield is looking fairly prosperous these days after a good deal of both public and private investment. It's one of these former industrial cities that did have some hard times, but it's really coming back. It's famed for having a wonderful carousel in the center of town. But we're headed outside of town to the old State Reformatory, which long ago was threatened with demolition, but by the work of a local group over many years has been preserved. It's a major tourist attraction. Movies are made there, so I'm looking forward to a very interesting visit to the old Mansfield State Reformatory. Hello, Ashley.
Hi, Jeff. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks so much for inviting us to the Reformatory today. So I'm interested in history and architecture. This was built what year?
We started construction September 16th, 1886. 1896, the west cell block was completed and we welcomed our first inmates then. Actual construction wasn't completed until 1910.
Now the architectural style, what would you say this is?
So it's a mix of Romanesque and Gothic architectural styles along with some Queen Anne.
And what was the idea of using architecture like this in a prison? Usually you just think of it as kind of a box where you put bad people, but it's more than that.
Our architect, Levi Schofield, was interested in inspiring inmates to a life of spiritual rebirth. He wanted them to feel inspired to turn away from a life of sin. So they wanted the reformatory to have a large, overreaching tone to it that was hopeful.
The building that stands now was not the entire facility. There was more. Isn't that right?
Correct. We only have the main building remaining at this point in time. When the reformatory was in operation, we had a 25-foot stone wall that encompassed quite a few outbuildings behind us as well.
Well, the outside is very impressive, but I know the inside probably is even more. So could I have a tour?
Of course, I'm happy to take you.
Oh, this is quite a room.
Yes, this has been exposed to the original brick in the reformatory here. As you may notice, the ceilings in this space have a wavy action to them that helps maintain the structure. And in this space, this is the first floor of the Ohio Corrections Museum. We feature not only items from the Ohio State Reformatory, but also items from other correctional institutions around the state. In this particular room, we have a lot of the furniture that the Glattke family used while here. Arthur Glattke was the longest serving warden here at the Ohio State Reformatory. Back in the 50s, he lived here on site with his family.
I think I saw a sign out in one of the other rooms that you have some artifacts from the Ohio Pen?
Yes, so the Ohio Pen, we have their original stained glass windows here in the main hallway as you're coming in. We also have the original electric chair that was used here in the state of Ohio. Never here at the Reformatory, but it was used down at the Ohio Pen for the executions that took place.
Well, I've learned so much already. There must be a lot more. Do you have something else to show me now?
Of course, I have a lot more to show you.
Let's go. Well, this is a bright, pleasant room.
Yes, this space features what it was like for a day in the life of an inmate. The Ohio State Reformatory offered enrichment programs for their inmates, so we offered sports and different kinds of activities they could take part in, including a band. So we had a wood shop here at the Reformatory. As part of our reformatory program, all the inmates were taught a skill that they could then use to get a job when they were back out in society. The wood shop created a lot of furniture that was used here at the Reformatory, as well as sent to other government buildings throughout the state, the governor's office, schools, that kind of thing. And this mantle was from our shop.
Boy, it's beautifully done. They really were skilled. So the idea was that you didn't just lock people up to punish them. You tried to really try to reform them, to
Exactly.
teach them skills. And I noticed there's stained glass here as well. kind of reminds you of the era of the 1880s. I think it was probably real popular then.
Yes, and the stained glass in this building is actually the original. After the reformatory closed down, somebody shoved it away in a room, stuffed in boxes, and then when the Reformatory Preservation Society came back to start cleanup, we found a padlocked room with all the stained glass windows safely put away in boxes, and we put them back up.
That's really fortunate. There must be 100 more rooms we can look at, but let's choose some.
Okay, perfect, let's go.
Show the way. Well, this is quite a space. Now, what room are we in here?
We are currently in Warden Norton's office from the Shawshank Redemption.
I noticed the woodwork, the curved at the windows, the curved ceiling with the plaster trim and so on. How much of it is original?
Bits and pieces are original, but we have a fantastic restoration team here on site that was able to restore the building to what it would have looked like when it was in operation.
Well, you're not kidding. This is really good woodwork. And I noticed there's a safe in the wall.
This safe is the actual safe from the Shawshank Redemption.
Aha.
After it was closed down, we were able to get it back from a safe collector who was willing to donate it to us as long as we promised to put it right back in the wall exactly where it was in the movie.
That movie has drawn a lot of attention, and there are a lot of fans, and it sure did a lot for the reformatory.
Yes, absolutely. The wrecking ball was essentially sitting out front, ready to take the reformatory down when Castle Rock Entertainment pulled up to film Shawshank Redemption.
Wow. How things happen just by chance.
We're very thankful Shawshank chose us.
Well, I'm ready to continue the tour.
Excellent, let's go.
Wow, what a space. This is really something.
It is, yes. This is the original chapel. At times, Protestant services, Catholic services, they were all run in this space. And all the inmates would just file in. That's the west cell block, that's the east. They would just file in, single file, to sit and attend Mass. And back when the chapel was in use, if you look along the side of the walls there, you can see where a balcony used to exist.
You can see.
Having that balcony was the only way we could fit all 1,900 inmates in this space.
Wow. Boy, it is a remarkable space, one of the most impressive ones. But I know there's more. So there's something else you want to show me, isn't there?
Of course, let's keep going.
Okay. So we're in a cell block. Which one is it?
This is the east cell block.
And the west was identical, just kind of a mirror image.
They were similar, but they did have differences. The west cell block was made out of concrete mortar and steel. It was easier to heat, easier to keep cool. Here in the east, it is comprised solely of steel. So in the winter, it's very cold, and in the summer, it's very hot. This is the largest freestanding steel cell block in the world. At 6 tiers high, right now we are 6 tiers up from the ground, and there is no taller cell block in the world.
When did the state abandon the institution and just walk away from it?
We closed our doors on December 31st, 1990. The last inmate left on December 30th, 1990. During that time, we sat empty for a couple years, and then the Shawshank Redemption was filmed here in 1993.
But by that time, you'd already formed the Preservation Association.
That's correct. The Mansfield Reformatory Preservation Society was formed in 1992. The state allowed us to have management over the property starting in 1995. We began cleanup efforts and started restoring the place. In 2000, we went to them and said, look at all the work we've done. We want to buy this from you. And the state said, we're not going to sell it to you, but we'll put it up to auction. You can come and bid on it if you want. So we showed up at auction. We were the only people there. We paid $1, which the state then donated back to us.
But what a great preservation story.
Yes.
I know we're not done yet. I know there's more to see. So again, lead the way.
Of course.
Another great space.
Yes. This is the central guard room. So inmates would come into this space for processing when they first arrived to the reformatory. There used to be a bench that lined that wall. We would call it the sinner's bench. You would sit there and contemplate your crimes while you waited to be processed. All around you, you could hear the sights and sounds and smells of 1,900 men in these cell blocks while you waited to get processed in.
Now that you're an up and running historical facility, what kind of visitation do you get?
Yes, last year we had over 150,000 visitors to the reformatory.
Wow, that's remarkable.
Yes.
I suspect part of the attraction must be, I mean, you look at it, it's big and it's Gothic and it's scary, and there must be something about a haunted presence here.
So part of our programming is a paranormal program. We offer ghost walks and ghost hunts throughout the course of the year. I have heard quite a few stories.
What are some of the typical ones, or what are some of the places where people sort of had experiences?
So we get a fair amount of activity reports from the cell blocks themselves. Guests will hear people walking on the tiers or the sound of cell blocks opening and closing. It is rumored that we have a ghost cat on the 3rd floor of administration. There was one day I had a guest here. He was just taking the guided tour. He walked into one of the solitary confinement cells. His wife was behind him. There was no one else behind him. She didn't move, but he said, "Oh gosh," felt like he'd been shoved, and there was a handprint on his back as he left the solitary confinement cell. I was closing the building by myself one night, and it was the middle of winter, so there were no guests. I was the only employee here. Clear as a bell, I heard my first name called. I just heard Ashley, and there was no one else in the building.
Wow. I'm getting more and more convinced the more you talk.
There are many, many stories.
Well, that's got to be part of the reason people come.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been a really interesting day. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for coming by. We appreciate it.
You may have heard tales of ghost sightings, or maybe seen one for yourself, but you never know if a ghost is truly lurking around the corner. I had a chance to sit down with local author and ghost expert Nellie Campman at the historic and possibly haunted Harrison House Bed and Breakfast. She shared her top and most notable haunts around Columbus. Columbus has countless stories of urban legends and ghost stories that have been passed down through time. There are also several notable places that have had ghostly sightings and disturbances over the years. One of those places is the Harrison House Bed and Breakfast, where I'm heading right now to meet up with local author and Columbus Landmarks ghost tour guide Nellie Campman, who has become well-versed in these stories. Hi Lynn, how are you?
Good, I'm here. Nice to see
Hi
you.
Nellie.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to be here with the two of you, or it's just the three of us, right? I don't know if there's anybody else here right now. You tell me, Lynn.
Well, it's Harrison House Bed and Breakfast.
You
and
never know.
You never know who's
Right?
here lurking around.
Wow, well, how long have you been here?
I've owned it for 13 years.
Uh-huh.
And first week I was here, I realized that there were probably other entities living here with me. I
Wow.
would hear noises, people walking upstairs, doors opening and closing, rattling.
And you stuck it out.
I'm still here and I love it.
Still
Yeah.
here, loving it, enjoying it.
I do. I have
Wonderful.
fun with it.
Now I gotta ask, are any of the original family members some of those extra special guests that stick around or hang out here?
From
or-
what we've been able to gather from them, and we do talk to them, there are 5 entities here and they all lived here and died here. There's a little boy that was part of one of the families that lived here. There are 2 gentlemen who are probably boarders here at some point or lived when it was a duplex. And then there's 2 women. There's one that is associated with the little boy, kind of pops in and out. It's real quiet, but keeps an eye on him. And then there was a woman who was the matriarch at the house.
Well, you don't look scared, so I don't feel scared.
Yeah, I'm not.
I feel like everybody's good. So I can't wait to hear what you have to share with us, Nellie. I'm looking forward to that.
Good, because I have
Yeah.
a ton of them.
All right, well, we'll let you go back to doing your
right.
thing. I'm gonna talk to Nellie
Yeah,
for a little
okay.
while.
Want to go this way?
Wonderful. So Nellie, I gotta ask you, what are some famous haunted places that we have here?
For my money, the most haunted place in Columbus is the Kelton House Museum and Garden. There are like 6 different entities people have seen there, plus a ghost cat. They have this one story about a ghost who people have seen for decades. He's just a guy in a Union soldier's uniform hanging around outside the kitchen side of the house, smoking. But this has happened so many times, and he appears like, to many people, as solid as if he was a real person. But they do have one spirit there who's not exactly a people person. When they first became a museum, they had a Halloween party, and they hired a man to go upstairs into the attic and to tell fortunes. The guy goes up there to get set up, and he's downstairs right away. He says, I cannot stay up there. There is something up there, and it does not want me up there. And over the years, they've had people have basically the same experience. They think it might be the ghost of Arthur Kelton. He was one of the younger sons of the family. Most of the family was business people. He was more of a free spirit. He tried making a living as a photographer in Columbus. That didn't work. He moved out to New York, became a printer, then moved out to Colorado with his wife, and they tried doing a photography business there. That didn't work. They moved out to California and eventually moved back to Columbus, but he ended up spending the last 2 decades of his life at the Columbus State Hospital, which is a mental health asylum. He just had a very sad end of his life.
Oh boy.
And if anybody was going to be a little shy of people, that would be him.
Right. Sounds like it. So now for the novice ghost hunter, is there anywhere else we need to know about?
Oh boy, there's a lot of places. I used to work at the Ohio Theater, and they had a few stories about a couple of different ghosts. One, they thought they had a little boy in the basement. Then they thought they had an elderly lady who would stay up in the balcony. And then another fellow never left who worked there. He was the stage manager. He worked there for decades. His name was Charlie. And he was very meticulous about his work and the work that the people working underneath him did. After he died, the stagehands found that, if they weren't doing their jobs quite as well as they probably should be, things would start disappearing. They would put their hammer down, turn around, and the hammer would be gone.
Oh boy.
And this happened time and time again. The State House also has a story about a very famous ghost. While Abraham Lincoln was campaigning to be president, he came to the State House. And at that time, Salmon Chase was the governor here. They had a big ball in his honor. And at one point, Salmon Chase's daughter, Kate, danced with President Lincoln. Unfortunately, Kate was a bit of a flirt, and Mary Todd Lincoln did not like that. So after she was dancing with Abraham Lincoln for a while, Mary Todd Lincoln said, no, that's it. We're stopping the dance now, and kind of dragged him away from her. Ever since then, people have seen Lincoln and Kate Chase dancing together, finishing their one interrupted dance.
Wow, now that's an incredible story. We have the ghost of one of our most famous presidents right here in Central Ohio.
Yeah.
All right, so where do we go next on our tour of haunted places in Columbus?
Well, I would go to the Central Ohio Fire Museum. It was the last firehouse that was built specifically for horse-drawn engines. And you can sometimes still hear the horses back in their stables, even though they haven't been there for probably a century at this point. Another ghost is also there. That would be Captain Dukeman. He was the longtime captain of that station, and a lot of times the people working in the museum will still see him walking around late in the evening and just keeping an eye on things.
So now, Nellie, are there places here in Columbus that maybe aren't around anymore or no longer exist that were historically or famously haunted?
Yes, actually we have a story that dates back before the Revolutionary War. Back in 1774, the governor of Virginia, Lord Dunmore, he decided that there was so much conflict between the white settlers and the American Indians who lived in his state. So he just flat out declared war on the Seneca, Cayuga, and the Shawnee. That conflict moved all the way up into the Northwest Territories, which Ohio was back then. As a part of that, Major William Crawford, who later became the fairly well-known Colonel Crawford, he and his troops came up to a Seneca Cayuga village that was on the banks of the Scioto River. It was just north of Franklinton. They waited until the men in the village went on a hunting expedition. So the only people there were women, old people, and little kids. They went through and they massacred everyone. This one woman grabbed up her kid and she swam out to an island that was in the middle of the Scioto and hid her child in a hollow tree. 2 days later, when the men came back, they found everybody dead aside from this one little kid. And ever since then, there have been stories, even in the early pioneer days, about hearing these screams and moans coming from the island.
Wow. So now these all sound like they're central downtown located. Is there anywhere outside of downtown area that are haunted? I grew up on the west side. I heard Camp Chase.
Oh yes, Camp Chase. That has an old story, again, going back to the Civil War. Basically, it started off as a Union soldier training camp. As the war went on, they started getting a lot of Confederate soldiers captured, and they had to have a place to keep them, so they started moving them over to Camp Chase. But they found that, unfortunately, you're more likely to die of disease as a soldier than you were of getting shot. And it was even worse for the Confederate soldiers because, they're Southerners. They were not used to the really harsh Ohio winters, and it hit them hard. During the Civil War, there was a young woman, Louisiana Branoff, and she was from Missouri, but her dad must have been a Union supporter because he sent her up here to study at Wesleyan College so that she would be safe during the war. But her sympathies were very much with the South. Mm-hmm. After the war was over, she ended up marrying a local man. But she had that soft spot for the poor men from the South that died up here, so she would sneak over to Camp Chase Cemetery. She would dress in a gray dress and then put a big veil over her so people wouldn't necessarily see who she was, and she would throw flowers over the wall. And as she got bolder, sometimes she'd go in and she would just leave flowers at the graves. And she finally died in 1950. And since then, people have seen this lady in gray in the cemetery putting flowers on the graves.
The lady in gray.
Mm-hmm.
I lived there my whole life and never knew there was a ghost wandering around near my neighborhood. Well, I'm glad that you took the time to share these amazing stories with me. One more reason for me to love my city and to be a little careful about where I go sometimes. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Nellie.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Have you ever wondered why there never seems to be trick-or-treating on Halloween in Columbus? Well, you're not alone. One curious viewer posed this question to us, and our very own Michael DeBonis uncovered that answer.
WOSU's Curious Sea Bus answers your questions about our region, its history, and its people. Newcomers to Central Ohio are often confused when trick-or-treating does not fall on October 31st. This led one curious citizen to ask, why is Halloween never on Halloween? This beggar's night makes no sense. Please help. Well, the idea of a beggar's night, when children go door to door for candy on a day before Halloween, has a long, complicated history that goes back a century. One reason for the beggar's night tradition is that Halloween became the night for parties and parades. Community organized parties took place on the 31st, so trick-or-treating was moved to the night before. Downtown Columbus once hosted one of the biggest Halloween celebrations in the country and attracted tens of thousands of revelers every year. The city held its first official Halloween celebration in 1925. The annual party occurred for almost 30 years before it was shut down for being too raucous. Police claimed that their resources were stretched too thin, covering both the parade and curbing prankster destruction in the surrounding neighborhoods. Even though the big downtown celebration was no more, Central Ohioans still couldn't contain their merriment and mischief to just one night. By the 1950s, festivities had expanded to 3 distinct nights: Halloween, Beggar's Night, and Penny Night. Observed on the night before Beggar's Night, Penny Night consisted of children going door to door asking for pennies rather than candy. That tradition was also stopped because vandalism was getting out of control. In a 1956 article in the Columbus Dispatch, a police officer is quoted as saying, "It was getting out of hand. All these nights were stretching into a week." Soon after, the Penny Night tradition faded away. Beggar's Night continued in Central Ohio, however. For decades, each individual city or town decided for itself when to observe trick-or-treating. To get the whole region on the same page so communities and law enforcement could coordinate their efforts, the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission proposed a Beggars Night plan in the early 1990s. Their plan was for Beggars Night to be on the day before Halloween unless that night is a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, in which case trick-or-treating would be on the preceding Thursday. Another motivation for this plan was football. With high school games on Fridays and college games on Saturdays, this plan prevented families from having to choose between candy and pigskin. Though not every community adhered to the plan, the policy stood until 2005 when a new recommendation suggested that Halloween should actually be celebrated on Halloween. This plan proved to be too simple and straightforward, however. In 2008, Halloween fell on a Friday, conflicting once again with football and causing some towns to move their date. The next year, Columbus switched back to a plan where trick-or-treating would be held on Halloween except when that day falls on a Friday or on the weekend. So, in short, don't make a Buckeye fan choose between game day and Beggars Night. Do you have a question for Curious C-Bus? Head over to wosu.org/curious to submit your idea. Vote on which question we should investigate next and see what we've covered so far.
Thanks for being with us, and remember you can catch all our episodes on columbusneighborhoods.org, plus see our stories on the WOSU mobile app. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you back here next week on Columbus Neighborhoods.
The mouths move every day down here in no man's land, making everything it takes to be a woman and man. Then one day a root reaches down from above, takes everlasting night and turns it into